Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Broad Show. I'm Terry. I'm with the Pom tonight again. And tonight is a very, very much a chilled and relaxed night. Pommy, what's going on, mate?
Oh, it's not much. It's crazy, isn't it? November we're in now. I mean, this year's flown by, hasn't it?
It is flying by, mate. It is. And then more importantly, freedoms. I know you're a family man, so you just got more places that you can go with the family. But it's good. It's good to get out, and it's good to see everyone happy again.
It's. I've got to say, the bad side is driving. Now everyone is out, so that's a bit of a stress. It was nice when no one went out, but apart from that, yeah, it's nice to see everyone out. It's nice to see people again as well a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely made the most of the freedom. There's no doubt about that. Can confirm Saturday night was at Dan's birthday, which was Dan from the Almost Blues Brothers, and can confirm there was a total takeover of the dance floor. It was great.
He's back. He's back, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen. Dance floors of Melbourne, beware.
Beware. I'm slut dropping anywhere near you.
I don't even know what it is. I'm that old. So I'll let my imagination run wild.
Let your imagination run wild. Not too wild, because we're going to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, good to have everybody here. We're going to talk about a few things coming up. We're going to do a best 22. It's been widely requested over the last few weeks, so I think now is the best time to do it. We're going to have a look at the list right now. We're going to have a look at who our best 22 would be projecting forward from right now, and obviously we're going to have a draft pick or two that come through, in about less than a month's time. But it's a cool exercise, and it's something that I'm sure is going to keep changing. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the PwC sports survey and some of the findings there, which is a very interesting bit of research that's been done. And then we're going to throw it to you guys as well. And what I'll do is, if anybody wants to throughout the show, just come on and have a chat. Feel free to. I'll put the link in the comments right now. Just hit the link and you can come in and have a chat anytime you like. But before we do that, let's run the intro and get the vibe going.
What's going on? The fucking today!
Martin's been very impressive.
Every single part.
They call the cold quarters and they thank you for the love.
Gates playing Glasgow. And there's a vantage moment. Ball inside 50. Control! He strikes it beautifully. He's got it.
Gotta love it. Got to love it. Pom, I know I can see you got your Rangers shirt on there, so I'm going to thank the members now, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to get you to talk a little bit about how the Rangers are going, because you're much more of a happy man this week than what you were last week. I think that's got to do more with United, but yeah, thanks to all the members who support the channel. Really appreciate it. Your names are appearing now on the bottom. Pom, talk to me, mate. What happened in your round ball world?
Oh, well, I mean, Rangers just we're going 1-0 down at the moment, and it makes us play better. And we absolutely pulled apart Livingston this weekend, which was great to see, really. And there was a lot of pressure on Steven Gerrard against going into Motherwell this weekend, because a lot of my Rangers fans think he's distracted by Newcastle, and there's some calls for him to be sacked, even though we're top of the league. So it just shows you the standards. You win one after a while, and why aren't we winning every game 6-1? But absolute decimation performance, big fashion, third African to score a hat-trick in Scotland. So great times. And yeah, Ollie decided to change his tactics for once. So that worked as well.
Well, it's a good segue, because we talk a little bit about Ole and the pressure. And I want to talk about two things with regards to, what you've grown up with and what you see with the round ball. More specifically with Ole, because from the outside looking in, I see similarities between he and David Teague at times, just in sense of the aura around the gravity around Manchester United, the aura around the gravity of the Carlton Football Club, and have they got the chutzpah to take that role? And then the pressure. I want to talk about what's the pressure that you notice with the AFL coaching landscape compared to that in England.
Well, I think firstly it's culture. Australians are a lot more patient. If you ask any POM about getting an emergency plumber out, in England, that's 5 minutes, no matter where you are. In Australia, it's customary to be about 2-3 hours. The first time I called one, he turned up in the morning, and I called him at 3 in the morning, and he arrived at 9.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference to a POM. But we don't really give you time. But you see United, big club, they've got a reputation of churning through managers. The press play on that. United, they've made a mistake again. And it affects a club. So United now are actually effectively scared to sack Ollie. They're scared to, because they know sack him and that's it. That it's another mistake. And you can see the owners are wary of that. And it happens all the time in soccer. Every time a manager gets sacked, you get a reputation. Takes a man chairman to really come in and say, I'm sacking another one. So that's the first difference. But the big one tactically is Ollie is similar to Teague. He has a system in play. He's got a mindset of how he wants to play. The problem is, doesn't work with the cattle. And the cattle is important. He's got a great superstar cattle, but he's asking them to play a way that he's familiar with. He's coached in Norway. He's coached Cardiff. These are Mickey Mouse clubs that are used to counter-pressing. And these sides don't know how to do it. So this weekend, he changed it. He beat Spurs, but they're a Mickey Mouse club themselves. But it's time to see how that goes. If you watch Brighton this week, great example for Carlton fans. I want you to go back and watch the Brighton game. They are in position to tackle at all times. It's how Potter sets them up. You can see Carlton this year, bottom 4 in tackles, bottom 4 in tackle attempts. If you're not there to tackle, it doesn't matter how good you are, you can't defend. So Brighton are probably the benchmark of how you set up against a good side.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued with just world sport and where I can find parallels, whether it be in the free agency, trading culture, or just the pressures of fans on sporting teams culture. I just think, I mean, when United lost, what was it, 5-0 to Liverpool, the first thing I thought of was the reaction and how he'd be able to handle it. And, you know, obviously the AFL coaching landscape is crazy as well. You've got 18 coaches. There can only be 18 coaches at any given time, which, you know, there is a lot of pressure, but it really almost is minute in terms of the numbers of people talking about the position compared to the, you know, the sports around the world.
Yeah, and I think the similarity with Ollie and Teague is he's a former player. Now, David Teague was nowhere near the level of footballer that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was for United, nowhere near the talent, but has that affinity with the club. And everyone, no matter how hard you are as a human being, has an emotional attachment to that kind of emotional story, a former player managing them back to the top. But there's the problem with the United fans. 5-0 to Liverpool. I don't care who you are. You should be sacked straight away. That's unacceptable. If we lost 5-0 to Celtic, I'd want Gerrard sacked. I'd want him sacked tomorrow, regardless of what he's done. It's unacceptable. So there's that emotional attachment as well. And you can see the fans are wanting him. I was watching United stands pre-game. They all said, we want him to succeed, though. And that's the problem. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you want. The guy's not good enough. And in my opinion, if they lose 5-0 to your City, that Champions League medal he won us is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's tarnished forever.
Very interesting. It really was. It was something I wanted to bring up. We're going to bring somebody in. Jad, one of the OGs. I'm going to bring him in.
Where is he? He's at the beach, is he?
I don't know. He's living the life here. Let's get him in.
Hey, boys.
How are you, mate?
I'm well. How are you guys?
We are very well. Well, look at you. You look happy. You got that smile on the face, mate. What's going on?
Yeah, because the fucking footy season's over, mate. That's why. Look at this. Look at the lakes. Oh, just beautiful.
Wow. Where are you? Where is that?
I live in Lynbrook, so this is like the estate I live in. So it's actually really nice. You got a few lakes. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Jesus, how posh are you, Jad?
I don't look it, mate, but I'm a classy bastard sometimes.
No, you are, mate. You are. How's your break been, mate? How's your off season been? Nice and relaxing. Yeah,
really, really good, boys. It's been really welcome. You know, at the end of the footy season, it's just like, it's so good to refresh and just not think about it at all. It's beautiful. And yeah, probably been watching a few of your videos, mate. Top quality as well. See how it goes this year.
So it's all right, mate. We'll be winning a flag this time next year, so you'll be too drunk to walk around Limbrook. Don't worry about it.
Happily welcome that, mate. I'll be a lag on street, just being a bloody hooligan. What I wanted to talk to you about, like the United points, like that's really interesting because I've been thinking about that as well. So Pommy, as you know, mate, like soccer's really fickle. They sack managers left, right, and center. But like I've always been a big believer in Ollie. I don't know how you feel about it, like now, but I believe in him. I like what United are trying to do because they're kind of trying to buck that trend of just sacking people, sacking managers. Because after Sir Alex, like that's 27 years of management from one person. It was never going to be a smooth transition, no matter who it is. So I actually admire what they're kind of doing, and I just see parallels with that and our club. So I feel like under Sayers, well, that's what we're kind of trying to aim to do. So we've already kind of bucked the trend in appointing Voss already, appointing a coach who's been sacked before. So maybe there's just a bit of shift there. I just think it's really interesting.
How are you buying into this new feeling of Carlton and it's a new vibe? And because for me, people have been asking over the last few weeks, and yeah, I'm excited. But now that it's all settled, I'm kind of ready to I remember how disappointing this year and really the last few years have been. So yeah, I'm excited. But like, has your excitement waned at all?
I think I'm a bit of an opposite to you, Terry, in terms of that. It's been pretty strange. Like, you guys know that I wasn't a big supporter of Voss at the start when they appointed him.
Yep.
But what I'm finding myself more and more confident in more every day is I'm more confident in the group, in the collective now than I am just about Voss. Because I finally feel like they've got that right, that balance, that structure, that team environment around a coach right. So I'm actually, I might be wrong, of course, but I'm quietly confident now. I'm not saying we're going to win the flag next year, anything like that, but I'm confident in the setup and I'm confident in the people. And even though I may not be a big supporter of Voss on an individual level, I support the vision and I support the group around him. Because, that team, if he's got weaknesses, I'm confident in those around him that they'll help him. A completely different situation to Tigi.
The change was an actual change this time around, right?
Well, it feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's just hope it's not another typical Carlton, but I feel like it is different. I really do.
Yeah. Pom?
No, spot on. I think that's the problem. And I think, like, alluding to your first question as well, I think sometimes you get change that's not real change. That's what we've had at Coward, isn't it? Because you've got to remember David Teague was the cone setter outer of Brendan Bolton. So it was really Brendan Bolton replaced with a more aggressive Brendan Bolton. But it was masked as this huge change. Huge change. This is all new, all singing and dancing. Bit like United. United were getting frustrated with foreign coaches and randoms being thrown into the job. They stuck at home. People loved it. Similar story to Teague. Caretaker, got a few cheap wins. Everyone jumped on the bandwagon. They sold you. He used to be a player. But this time it seems like a whole new change, doesn't it? Everyone's gone bar Luke Power and one development coach. And it does feel like even the way that the players are talking, the wording of the team, it's all changed. So I think it is hard not to be optimistic because it's the first time since I've been here we've done something totally different to what we usually do. Usually we just do half a change and then tell you everything's changed. And you sit back and go, nothing's really changed. You've just changed the names.
I think that's on the back of the review, mate. It seems like we're actually addressing proper issues now. It's not just change for the sake of change. So I'm actually pretty confident, boys. I am.
Yeah, I am confident. I am excited. I'm just so damaged, to be honest.
Oh, Taz.
We all are, aren't we?
That's the truth. That's the honest truth. Because I don't know. I'm sort of placing a lot of weight. Maybe I shouldn't be, but like I'm placing a lot of weight on the first 4 or 5 games of the year. Because like I feel like when you get a new regime in, you've got to win a few games to just really build some belief in what they're doing on the field, game plan wise. It's kind of what we weren't able to do over the last few years. Well, we haven't been able to do for a while, to be honest. But I believe in the coaching group and the group as a whole that we have right now. I'm just mindful of getting into that 0-2 hole again, 0-3 hole again.
Yeah, mate. Well, I'm with you. It's bloody scary, and I don't know what's going to happen if we do find ourselves at 0-3. But I'm so curious to see what sort of dynamic the coaching is the group's going to be in now. Like the dynamic, because I look at Fagan at Brisbane, and it's said that Fagan isn't a big tactician. It's said that he's more of a man manager. He's more of a relationship guy, and he leaves that other stuff to to his assistants. Now, of course, the head coach is always going to be tactically okay, but I kind of feel this is the sort of setup we're going to have now with Vossi, because it seems like they appointed him for that man management style, and the other guys will take care of the rest. So I'm just very interested to see. I feel like we haven't seen this before at Carlton. So
I think.
What do you think about that?
I think I prefer it that way. I don't know, because you have 4 or 5 coaches in your group. I think I prefer your head coach to be the lead motivator, message sender, as opposed to the lead tactician. Because I have this idea in my head, this preconceived idea that if you're a super tactician, I don't know what your people skills are necessarily like. I'm not sure if there's many coaches that have both. The super intricate tactical side of things and the ability to really connect with someone, on a real deep level and motivate them. So I look at Vossi as the motivator and someone like Ashley Hansen as the real tactician. Pom, what about you?
Well, I think when you look at other sports, don't you? Like, even though a lot of other sports put more onus on the head coach, it is a team game back doors. You look at Fergie and Quiroz, right? The most famous combination in the UK. Carlos was meant to be the tactical genius, the guy that could foresee things that happened before they happened. And Fergie was the guy that maximised the players, got 100 when they only had 90 to give. And I think it's kind of alien in the AFL because we do look at it very archaic, don't we? One man and the other 5 guys are just around there just to teach them how to kick and handball. Modern day sport has people, aces in the place. You look at work, you might have the greatest team leader, but around him, he has skills that he can leech off that make up his team. And I think that's important. So, like Solo's put out here, Goodwin, there's an issue with Goodwin. Goodwin, if you listen to Melbourne, when they brought in Choco, the talk was they knew what they wanted to do with the midfield. They couldn't find the words and the application on the training track to take vision into reality. And evidently Choco got there and said, right, what he means is X, Y, Z. You do this, you do that, you do this. And suddenly the game plan became a reality. And that's quite interesting that Carlton have got a communication specialist in now, a tactical specialist. You've got different coaches in the midfield and the back line, all development coaches as well, with specialisation in talking to young players, which is very interesting. So you can see Carlton have kind of maybe focused, like you say, Chad, instead of going after one big name, they've said, let's get 8 little names that make a big name, that make a big football brain. And I think it's going to be interesting because if these guys fail now, they'll fail for the rest of their lives. This is Pom's big call. They fail this year with what's around them. They're failures for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's kind of where my fear comes from. But I do have a supreme confidence in them to just, I mean, surely they have that that self pride and that self, determination and motivation to just understand that forget about, make or break or whatever. It's literally just time. Like, it's time to grow up. We all go through it. We all make mistakes. We all fail in our lives. And some of us take longer than others to learn certain lessons. I just feel like as a whole, everyone's going to be learning lessons. Even the coach, even the head coach, Michael Voss, he's coming into a situation where he's now going to prove that he's learned from his lessons. So that's where my confidence comes from. But being the tragic that I am, I have the fear.
I'm with you, mate. I'm with you.
I'd hope that all 40 odd players on our list, all 38. Look at Melbourne's 38, and whether we believe it or not, I hope they look at the opposite 38 and say, "I'm just as good as you."
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? I can beat you, and that should hold hope. We've always matched up well with Melbourne, and they will see what Melbourne have done. And said, "Why can't we be that guy? Why can't we be them? Why can't we
I think
this
we can.
year be them?"
Yeah.
I think we've got just as much talent, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean,
But talent's so overrated, isn't it? It's just so overrated. It's more than that. You got to be the sum of your parts.
yeah.
It should probably be a new slogan.
Spot on. You do have to be the sum of your parts, and then ultimately, the competition as a whole it's in pretty good nick. It's a really even competition right now. You know.
So remember, I don't know if you remember, mate, but I messaged you like start of last year, and I was like, why can't we be that team that just shocks the competition just one time, just once? Can't we be that team that everyone's shocked by their improvement by? Far out.
I mean, listen, man, it'll make 2022 when it is the year, whenever the year is that we do win the flag, or not even whenever the year is where we next make finals, which we believe should be hopefully 2022. But whenever that year is, it's going to be extra enjoyable for us. There's no doubt about it because we're so much more connected now, you know. And I do hope that, you know, when we do make the climb into the 8, it's not just a scraping in, finishing 8th, you know, with one game to go, got to win. Like, I don't want the heartache. Just get in, finish 6th, just climb up, you know?
Yeah, I actually reckon it's going to happen. It'll happen all at once. It'll be like we make it to the gradient and we win it because I just think our history lends itself to that. We're kind of like Real Madrid. Once they broke that drought and got to the Champions League final, they won. It's just in your history. So that's the Carlton swagger of me, and that's what I'm going to back in. I'm going to back that in. That sort of success.
I felt that when we beat Richmond in the 2013 final because it was kind of like we didn't really deserve to be there. We got there on a technicality, but the history of the Carlton Football Club was on our side. We make finals. We're a successful team. We've got that subconscious ingrained thought process of we are Carlton, we win finals. Whereas you look at Collingwood, if anything can go wrong in a granny, it will go wrong because historically they only lose grand finals. So I like to think that there's something in that.
Yep. I'm with you, mate. I am with you.
Yeah.
I always think it's the mindset. I remember
Tommy,
listening to Andy Murray. And he kept making Grand Slam finals and losing, and he got Van Lendl in. And I remember him saying that the first lesson Van Lendl gave him was asked him a question: if you won a Grand Slam, what would you do? And he said something about buying a watch. And Van Lendl says, "Have you got the money for the watch in your bank account now?" And he went, "Yeah." And he was like, "Right, no lesson today. Go out and buy the watch because you've already won the Grand Slam." And he said that when he won the Grand Slam, that actually was the mental key for unlocking it. It was, I've got the tools to be a champion. I've proven it. I keep getting there. I just can't beat Djokovic, just can't beat Federer. And then he just kept doing it and he kept winning. And he went on a period of 2 years, just keep beating these guys. And he said that was the mental cue because he had something that he couldn't do, even though he could, because he promised he'd do it when he won one. The fact Lendl said, you've won it. Mentally, you've already won it once you've bought it. So now what's holding you back? He said the mental chains were released. And I think that's the key to what Voss has got to do with these boys and say, you're good enough to be here. You're good enough to be here. You've proven it in spurts. And if you can do it in spurts, you can do it full time. Because that's the only difference. Consistency is just rinse and repeat. So that's what Voss has got to do. That mental, whatever mental trigger these have got, that's got to be it. That's got to be it for these boys.
So you feel like once we do it once, it'll unlock and we won't know how to stop doing it.
Well, something's holding them back mentally. I mean, obviously the tactics and structure last year were banterville, but I would say for a lot of these guys mentally, they don't know if they can do it. And that's where Voss will come in as the Fagin, like Jad said, put your arm around, give you a hug, say you're the man. Because that's all it is. And that's the belief you see in Melbourne from this year to last versus Carlton now, and Carlton the flag winning side.
Love it. Love it. Jad, anything else on your mind, bro?
Not really, mate. Just one more thing before I go.
Yeah.
Just hope it kind of feels to me that the club has finally realised that, like as we said earlier, the coach can't be all things, and that's been us for the last 20 years. We've looked for, the Messiah, the guy. Maybe now they've finally had a look around the league and seen, like, hang on, it's actually a team of coaches now. It's never going to be one person ever again unless you're Al Clarkson. So I don't know. I just feel a bit of a mental shift. Hopefully it comes to fruition and off we go. Flags, baby.
Is that why you think, sorry, Pom, is that why you guys think, mate, like, I mean, on the surface level, when, the Ross Lyon talk was happening, it was like, yep, best available, that's him. Is this maybe going to be something we'll be talking about in 12 months where we say, I'm glad we didn't get sucked into that one guy, pay him the bulk of your soft cap and just put whoever around him? Is that what we're going to be talking about?
I really hope so, because that seems to be the modern trend, doesn't it? Everywhere you look, that's the best clubs adopt that approach. So let's just hope. Let's just hope.
Yeah. Love it. Love your work. Good to chat with you, brother.
All right, boys. Thanks for having me.
See you, mate.
All right. See ya.
See you, mate. I always find that quite amusing. Just before we talk to Steve, the best available argument. See Jake Smith say it in the comments. Carlton didn't go for best available. Well, like, the definition of available, to my understanding, is the ability to be obtained at your means of disposal. So Clarkson's in America at the moment studying, and that's been confirmed. He is actually in America. Do you know what I mean? Ross didn't want the job. So technically, Voss, by definition, by the English language, is best available. You can't force someone to do the job that you can't. Like Steve here, big Coventry fan. If they went out and got best available, he wouldn't turn around and say, why didn't they get Jose? Why didn't they get Conte? Because he's not available to Coventry City because they've got the best manager in world football, Steve Robbins.
And on that note, Steve, welcome.
Dan, Terry, how you going?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, Coventry are flying, Dan, but that's not why I jumped on anyway. But I just thought things are very relaxed at Carlton this time of the year. Normally we're just hoping for things, but I just feel the last couple of weeks everyone's relaxed with everything that's gone on. And I think I heard you guys talking about the midfield and how Hewitt and Shearer coming in is going to put a lot of the squeeze on these guys on the fringes now. And it's probably there were too many guys last year getting games through the middle of the ground that had bad games and then backed up and didn't get dropped without naming names. So I just thought now I think the midfield's coming together with those couple of inclusions for next season. I think we'll have the depth. We'll be really strong. So,
I mean, when I look at it, I mean, I'm thinking of like the 4 or 5 names off the bat, that are going to be there. Obviously if they're healthy and available, you got Cripps, Walsh, Chera, Hewitt. There's your first 4 there. Is Williams going to rotate a little bit in there next year? Don't know. But then all of a sudden there's probably 1 or 2 left. And then with that 1 or 2, you've got 4 or 5 names. Like, is Dow going to continue on? Is Kennedy going to continue on? Is Setterfield going to come back? Will Fisher rotate more through there? So you're right. Like, we've added 2 bona fide best 22 midfielders into the mix, and it's going to, I mean, I would assume it's going to help everybody else.
Yeah, you're right. You mentioned Fisher, and I think you always think back to games you lose. And I think back to that round 2 game that everyone seems to be haunted by. And I remember a couple of times Fisher got the ball from 40, 45 metres out and couldn't make the distance and handed the ball off. And that sort of stuck in my mind. I thought there's a small 40s there, really should be making the distance from that range. Just little things like that stick in your mind. And I reckon the new coach will sit down and say, okay, that's not going to happen this year. If you want to play beyond 22, that's got to be addressed. There's certain little things that will be picked up, I think, with the depth of their midfield. So, yeah, you're right, Terry. I think that's and I thought last year with Cripps and Williams being injured, we got exposed for depth in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen next season. So, anyway.
No, you'd hope so.
That was just my thoughts.
It's a good one on Fisher because you either say, okay, the ability to not make the distance from 35, 40 meters is not good enough, or is it just the case of he's a better player on the wing, running with the ball, he can kick it a little bit more when he's on the run. I don't think he's a forward, and if you're not a forward, you're not a forward. I don't know how many times he's practiced his goal kicking as a junior to really, there's that notion of to become an expert at something, you've got to do it for 10,000 hours. I don't think Fisher grew up doing goal kicking and set shot routine for long enough. So at the time now he's 22, 23 to be able to be a bona fide forward for us. I think he can do that in spurts, but I would hope from this end, looking, outside looking in, I'd hope from this end that he gets a message where it's like, no, you want to play, you're going to be a midfielder.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you've said in previous shows, there's 3-4 guys I notice, and I know he's one of probably 3 or 4, because the pressure's going to be on these guys now. Like they play a game, they're going to get dropped, and they may not come back in the side. And then I think of Gibbo. Okay, he was a bit stiff, and what you said, Terry, was right about his comments on the way out on SEM were poor. But I think back to that game when he got knocked out against Gold Coast, that he never really recovered from that knock.
No,
up until that stage, he was playing serviceable football, and that's not giving him an out. But I'm just thinking, like, he was a bit stiff in some ways. He had his limitations, but there are going to be a lot of guys who put on notice next season. And Fisher's one set of field. There's going to be quite a few that be put on notice. So I think, especially now we've got a coach who's played through the midfield, he'll put a lot of these guys on notice through the middle of the park. So it's going to be hopefully happy days for us.
Yeah. Are you buying into the excitement?
Oh, look. Actually, I funnily enough, Terry, I just replied to Dan put on his best 22 players in his last 10 or 15 years. And I actually just replied to the best 22 I've seen in the last 50 years. So I'm sort of showing my age. I've been lucky enough to see some pretty good sides run through the Carlton. So, look, we'll just wait and see. I think a lot of it's going to depend on Charlie too. If Charlie can take the heat off Mackay, a lot of these top 4 sides have your 2 or 3 avenues for goal. And if Charlie can really stand up, if we can get at least 15 games out of Charlie, I think we're going to go really close to making at least the top 6.
I'll take that. I'll absolutely take that.
And maybe the ruck too. That's maybe the only TDK. Look, I know he's improving, but that's the only other part of the ground that's really worrying me is the ruck. If he gets injured, where do we go through a whole season?
Almost wish that we could give him an injection of time, like 3 years, and he could have 3 years of experience plugged into him straight away.
Yeah, exactly.
It's only us doing that 2 injections, though.
That's true.
No injecting.
We need some luck. We just don't need our key players to go down. If we can have our key players like Wiedering, Jones could be I think you've said long term, Dan. We'd like to see that maybe we can find a replacement for Jones next season. If there's a chance to blood someone, that's thinking, will Jones be in our next premiership side? Maybe not. So do we try next year of trying to find someone in that slot? Don't know.
Yeah, I think preparation is always best, because I think we look at the last 2 retirees, we've had to go out and buy a replacement, and we've never really, they've not been good enough to replace the guys retiring, or they haven't had opportunity. I think your comments are brilliant though, Steve, about the midfield, because the comments are alike. Tony and Adonis, I think, have nailed it in the terms of I think there's so much talent there now that the top 5 midfielders are pretty much sewn up. So to break into this side, to create the depth, your Dowles, your O'Briens, your Fogartys, your Martins, if they want midfield time, your Williamses, they're going to have to improve. And they're going to have to improve and be consistent to get that next available berth. And that only makes the football team better. You know that in soccer, when new signings come in, it's harder to get next to him. So you've got to improve. And that in turn makes the guy down the line improve. And then suddenly there's a scrap for that other place. And that's what Shearer and Hewitt do. They've locked down 2 roles in the starting 22. They're new recruits. So now that means 4 guys that probably played last year are fighting for 2 jobs. And that means now we're going to see a lot about these guys improving. Dow, he's going to have to improve. He can no longer say, I'm a top 5 talent. He's got to prove he's a top 5 talent. Otherwise, Fogg is like, well, you know what? You're a top 5 talent, but I give a shit. And I bring my intensity. I get the next job. And I think that's really important for Carlton, that before, like you say, Gibbons, he was an okay footballer. He wasn't good, though. He was okay, serviceable. That doesn't win you flags, though. But he was always in our best 22. So now these boys are going to have to go above serviceable and be good.
Exactly.
And that's exciting, I think. That's a reason to be excited.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff, boys.
Love it. Good on you, Steve. Thanks for joining, mate.
No worries.
I got all excited then. I fired myself up.
Love it. Speaking of fired up, the world's best study, Mr. Beach.
We've gone from walking across the lakes to walking across the lakes of knowledge.
Oh, well, Dan, I think you'd know all about that, mate, wouldn't you?
I just pretend to be smart. I don't have the books.
Nah, all good, mate. All good. Nah, look, guys, I'm just going to quickly talk about the potential development that we may have to deal with this coming season, whether that's in the AFLW or whether in the AFL season this coming up. We all want to see success, but who actually needs to step up more? That's already on the list.
From both teams?
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the ladies because they're coming up, and we mentioned this. We mentioned this last. We've been mentioning it for the last few weeks. I feel like because we've lost Jess, because we've lost Taylor Harris, we've lost Ruckman. What's her name?
Gibbs.
Not Gibbs. The Ruckman that we lost from last. The name has Duna.
Oh, Duna. Yeah.
Senior players, I feel like the responsibility now falls on fewer because there's quite a few really fresh youngsters, and so it could be a good thing. It could be a good thing because you're cornered now. Some of these girls are cornered. I mean, Kez Harrington, I back her in. I think her leadership is second to none in the league. I love the way she goes about it. Pom, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think you've got Kez Harrington, you've got Maddie Prasparkis, you've got Darcy Vesio. I think all 3 of these girls week in, week out produce. I'd be looking at Egan, I'd be looking at G, and I'd be looking at McAvoy this year. Last year, every game, one of them performed when the other 2 had a quiet game. I think this year it's really getting all 3 of them girls to step up in the absence of players that have retired and say, you know what, we're here to back Madison up. Because I found last year, particularly in the girls' game, Maddie was really exposed at times. That midfield collapsed around her and she had to, it was almost like watching Crips in 2018. Do you know what I mean? That suddenly it was her versus the world and some of the girls decided to participate and then some had a quiet game. And you watched the game back and you thought, where was this G this week, last week? Where was this Egan last week? So for me, they're the girls that I'm looking at. For the men, I'm looking at Dow and O'Brien, and I think that both of them, O'Brien particularly, we haven't got a natural wingman on the list, and he should be looking at this team and saying, well, you know what? Chera doesn't affect me. Hewitt doesn't affect me. This is my gig. This is my time to shine. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping he goes back to basics. Voss doesn't treat him like Teague did, where you've got to go and get your ball. He's a wingman. His feet should be on the wing, on that little painted white line, and he should never go near the centre corridor. In fact, I would make him run laps for every time he entered the corridor if I was his coach. I don't want him anywhere near it. So I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Darwin O'Brien. I think them two really this year, one of them has to make good of their draft pick number and really say, I belong now. And I'm looking at Dow. I think Dow will do it. I've got a feeling Dow will do it.
I'll go even higher up in terms of the pecking order, and I'll go straight to Paddy Cripps. Because one of the things that we all saw all year this year was, and this is something, did we address it? I don't know. Well, time will tell. But one of the things that we saw a lot of this year is when, games got tight, teams got on runs, our leaders were just not able to make the right decision in the crunch, pressure, situations, moments. Now, is injury an excuse for that topic? I don't know. I don't think so. But I'm looking at, it has to start from the leadership group, right? It has to start from there. So that puts even more pressure on someone like a Jacob Wiedering or now a Sam Walsh and a Harry Mackay, who are really pushing the club forward and making it their own. But for me, Paddy Cripps is a very important one. If we can get him to his best, complementing Walsh, Wiedering and Mackay, then I think we're going to be a much better team just from that alone.
No, fair enough. Because as far as I'm concerned, your Prespakis, your Vessios, and your Moody's, maybe even your Charlotte Wilsons, they're always going to step up, as well as your Kes Harringtons to step up for the girls. Cripps showed his prominence throughout various games throughout the year. Walshy was always going to step up. Wiedering was always going to step up. Mackay was always going to step up. But it's now relying on those second tier, third tier players to help support them. And it's important now because when we get to 2022, there's no looking back. We got to be ready to step up when we are required.
What about guys like Jack Martin and Zach Williams, guys who have been, recruited for their serious talent, paid very well, handsomely. Is it just a case of they need some time to get comfortable being a Carlton person? Because I would like to think that those two in particular, would have an impact on the playing group and a voice amongst the playing group. I would hope that they're not just, rock stars that come to training and don't talk and don't get involved and they're paid for their talent, but they don't provide anything else. I would hope that they have that comfort level to speak up and to have that input.
No, I'm with you there, Terry. I mean, you don't want to see players like Martin and Fisher rocking up with a pair of aviators to training, saying, "Oh, how good's this? I'm one of the best players at the club," when they can't even back it up. They have to be really, really have the pressure put right on them, because Michael Voss will be ready to go right into them if they are one step off or 1 second slower than their usual spot.
What I want to see is, and I always find this weird because Terry just said it there, and it is a very AFL phrase. They need time to adjust to being a Carlton player. And I'm going to use another Rambo analogy because I know you two like it. Look at Aaron Ramsdale. The guy's not been capped for England. This weekend, there was a great moment that big Aubameyang missed a tackle with Jamie Vardy, went through on a corner. And his captain, Ramsdale, first-year player for Arsenal, first time in the big time, screaming at him, berating his own club captain for making a mistake. I want to see that. I don't want to see Cripps have to do that. I want to see some of these players like a Hewitt, like a Chera, like a Zach Fisher, like a Paddy Dow, not accept it just because it's Cripps. And when Cripps does his horrible thing, when it gets a bit hard and it gets a bit tough and Cripps suddenly goes to a phone booth somewhere and gets his Super C out and goes Superman Cripps and takes the game on himself, I want Hewitt next to him and go, "Patrick, you've just paid 400k for me to be here. Will you pass the bloody ball once in a while, mate? You don't have to do it anymore. We're a team, yeah? We're a team again." Right? Yeah. And I want to see that. I think necessarily we look to Cripps to do something he shouldn't have to. And we think he's going to be a captain. We want him to have 40 touches, kick 4 goals. I want to see him get some on-field help because at the moment I see Cripps to an extent being a leader. But when I watch the game, I'm seeing Wiedering tell people off. I'm seeing Walsh look like he's going to burst into tears at full time. I want to see this passion come out in the field. So I want to see Harry Mackay turn to a midfielder and say, would it fucking hurt you to watch my run and kick to me? Instead of kicking 9 foot in the air and hoping I get it, can you watch what I'm doing? And that is how a team gets better, when they have the confidence to speak out and say, look, Cripps, you're good, you're my captain, but would it kill you to fucking hit a target, mate? Would it kill you? And that's not a bad conversation to have. That'll make you better. And that's what excites me when you watch that Brisbane documentary, hearing what Lee Matthews got them to say, telling Voss off for laughing and smiling with one of his friends. Them little moments that change your culture are huge. And I hate culture because it's a myth. And the Aussie media loves culture. There is no such thing as culture, right? The culture that the media talk about is winning, right? Is winning. And that's not a culture. That's just a product of good culture. Culture is changing little things that end into a big result. And that's what the club needs to change. Be not scared to speak out. Know your role and hold people to account, not just yourself, but the rest of your teammates. Because at the end of the day, these guys win together and lose together. And that's something that turns me on, that Voss says. When we fail, we all fail. When we win, we all win. So let's get rid of these days. McKay kicks 7, Cripps has 40. Now if Cripps has 40 and kicks 4 goals, the team had 40 and allowed that to happen. And that is how we get better as a team. These guys stand up and know their place and demand their place. You're firing me up, Tess. Come on, man. It's fucking November.
It's fucking the 1st of November, mate. We're gonna run through the wall.
Yeah, and it's only Melbourne Cup Day tomorrow. Dan, come on, mate.
Mate, I'm going to remortgage and slot it all on horse 3 at this rate. I'm so excited.
It's funny because I think I put a bet on number 3 actually, so it'd be a good one to have a look at.
Speaking of number 3, who do we think is, and for you guys, for Beachy and for Pom, and for you guys in the audience, who gets the number 3 next year? Because I don't think we're going to be retiring it.
Dan, you want to take this one?
There can only be one, in my opinion, and he's the best in the league. Best in the league.
Oh,
wow. Sammy Walshy, the best in the league. I think there's something romantic about Walsh having the 3, and I'll say why. Murphy stuck around, best player in our MVP, and fucked off, and could have fucked off and won some, stayed with us. I think there's something romantic about our best player actually winning one in that number 3. And I'd like it. I wouldn't mind Stocker to have it, though, because he talked about Murphy being inspirational. But I just think, let's have the touch of class. Sam Walsh, number 3, rolling back the years.
It's got a nice little, for a logo, SW3. I worry that, I'm not worried. It's not a bad, it's not a problem. I'm just mindful of, has he made the 18 his own already? Because it's a pretty nice number.
Yeah. That's a great question. That is actually a great question. In answer to yours, if Dan's going to go Walshy, but I'll go to Stock Exchange because he needs to, as far as I'm concerned, sure, he can make the 13 his own as well and be a ball in that 13. But if we give him that number 3, he'll go to another level, I reckon.
I do like SW3, though. It sounds like CR7, doesn't it? You can see... Sam Walsh, if you're watching, SW3, bro, there's your retirement fund. That's true. Terry, you're a genius and you didn't even realise it. I could see it now. SW3 shoes, sunglasses.
You wouldn't be the first. You wouldn't be the first outlet today to copy an idea of mine, mate.
Big shout out our mates at Carlton Draft. Well done.
Big shout out to the Carlton Draft for their fuck yeah t-shirts. These ones here. Yeah, really appreciate you mugging me off, guys.
Absolute piss take. Well, from the king of taking the piss. Well done, boys.
Yeah,
that's right.
Love it, Beachy. Love having you on as always, mate. Thanks for joining.
Not a problem, boys.
See you, mate.
SW3's Chelsea, I believe, Cameron. I'm not
Hey guys.
I'm not a Cockney.
Hello, mate.
Hey, gone. Long time no see, boys.
Long time no see. Look at you, fresh head shaved. I like what I'm seeing, mate. Look at you
Look,
go.
he's
Yeah,
taking
actually
us to bed as well without a beer. This is a first for
thought
me.
we get real intimate tonight. So yeah,
Mate, what have you got for us?
I'm really excited about the next year coming up. I mean, we say it every year, don't we? It's the same old. We get all excited, but I think there's real change this year, and I'm really excited to be a Carlton supporter for the first time in a long time. Really, it's great.
I think once we start seeing, the first preseason photo and like training and like someone's muscles look a little bigger than last year, and because this is really the time of imagination. That's really what it is, and you can't crush you can't crush a dream that we have in preseason because it hasn't happened yet. So it can only be positive,
Yeah, I'm just some of the wording out of the club's been fantastic. It's starting to sound like a football club again. I mean, it sounded like a media corporation since 2002, and now it's starting to sound like a football club. Who we used to sound? We used to sound like Manchester United. How they sound right now. That's what we sounded like, and now we're actually starting to sound like a team like Liverpool or something, where we actually, it feels like where there's a real connection to the fans and the history. I don't know why. It just felt like a while the ball was just trying to disconnect from what Carlton used to be and what made them great. And now I feel like we've got that back. I feel like I'm watching the Carlton of the 80s again. Where it was like, it's about us. It's about no one else. We don't want to be Richmond. We don't want to be, Melbourne. We want to be Carlton. We want to be the best and stand for the best and the highest standards. And that's what I'm super excited about over the next 10 to 15 years.
Well, they beat Richmond round 1. It's all over.
I'm getting a tattoo.
It's all over. We beat Richmond round 1. I'm telling you now.
I think my girlfriend was telling me the other day.
I think what Chris says nails it. It is very like Man United. And sometimes you've got to drop your arrogance. It's good to be arrogant and say, we're the best side in the league. We're the best, historically, we're the most successful side. But you've also got to eat a bit of humble pie. And I've enjoyed the club eat humble pie. Use phrases like the effort hasn't been good enough in the past. The standards are nowhere near acceptable. Voss' first press conference saying, the real work begins now. It's going to be very tough. And I think that's the problem. The club has been a creche, really, for overpaid prima donnas and basically being like, it's okay, it's not going to be too hard. Oh, that chubby Pom's had a go at you on Blue Abroad. It's okay, Sam. Come here, give me a hug. Like, these guys are at work. And Voss is a guy that isn't going to fail twice. You know that if he fails twice, he's never sleeping ever again. Yeah. So that excites me that these boys now have that ownership. One thing that has really excited me as a man that stalks these players like a scorned ex is I haven't seen any stupid Instagram videos or pictures. And as soon as lockdown ended this weekend, I was like, here we go. We're going to get some dickheads. They're going to be naked in Crown Casino. Here it comes. But to be fair to them, they're all on the track. And that excites me. I had a meeting. I can't really talk about it. I had a meeting with someone at the club this week, and they said that they've actually had to hold players off because they're that excited about training. And that hasn't happened before, that all the players are actually wanting to get to the facilities and use them. And that's what real clubs do, work hard. And it's always felt like, for me, this time of year is the players' day off, the players' time off. And it feels like they're itching to go back and do something. Because in all honesty, I mean this with sincerity, only Sam Walsh and maybe Jacob Whittering and Harry deserve some break. The rest of them, in my opinion, haven't worked for the last 9 months. They've just meandered. So it's exciting to see that, like you say, we're a football club again, not a social enterprise.
Yeah, I would say also, talking about Manchester United, I think the players are starting to really become, they're starting to realize what a professional athlete is. I think before, they kind of thought, well, we just have to do what the coaches tell us, just do all that and we'll show up and we'll be fine. And looking at someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, it's not a 9 to 5. This is your life. This is every waking moment trying to be the absolute best person you could be. Cristiano Ronaldo, if people don't know, just watch the stuff he does to prepare his body. This guy never eats takeout, never goes out drinking. Every waking minute is about how he can be better for himself and his team. And when I think the players are starting to understand how you can hear it in players like Stocko, and players like Walsh, but there's no excuses anymore. There's no excuses. It's on you. There's no one else. You can't blame your coaches. Can't blame David Teague. You can't blame the board. It's on you. You are responsible for what you put out on the field.
I learned a lesson a few years back. I think it was 2018. I was in Shanghai with Port, and I remember I met Travis Boak a couple of times, obviously, while I was there. And one year we went to the UFC center that they opened up in Shanghai, and I remember having a conversation with him and one of the trainers there, and I was asking him about, when you get into the league, how does it work? Like, you get your training program, like you do your extras, how does it work? And I remember him telling me that it's not really until after pretty much 5 or 6 years where you start knowing exactly what works for your body. Like, everyone's going to get a training program, but it's not until you've had quite some time in the system, you mature, you figure out, okay, like Harry Mackay, for example, he's identified he wants to have a little bit more speed, whether it's 0.2 or 0.3 seconds off his first 10 meters. So he's going to engage this speed project in Melbourne. And I think that's where this group's at. Like, the bulk of the core are now doing things outside of their program. I mean, Cripps has been doing it for a while. We know that he wanted to, he shed some weight a few years back to become a better runner. Obviously, it didn't necessarily work out, but he did take the initiative to do something else. And I think that's where this group is now getting, because at the end of the day, all 18 clubs have a training program. What's going to separate the good from the great are the ones that are self-aware to know where they want to improve to get that competitive edge within themselves.
Yeah. And also that competitive edge is so small nowadays. I mean, the amount of knowledge that we have about sports science and all that stuff, the distance between the lowest and the best team is not much at all. It's not like, they're only, like, the worst team and the best team are probably only about 6 to 7 goals difference, which really isn't much at all. So I think the players also have to realize that even if you work hard, you don't just deserve it. You have to earn it. Sometimes, it's unlucky. Sometimes you don't get the result. That doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You gotta keep working hard. You gotta keep persisting and keep going. You can't just give up when things get too hard. And I feel like they've done that sometimes, is where they go, we've worked so hard. Why, it's just not working. Why should we even bother anymore? Which is the worst ever attitude you can have. You're not entitled to anything in this life.
No.
You have to go out and earn it. And if you
It's
don't,
something Bossy's talked about as well. Like you're saying, accountability. And you look at Carlton last year, you got through Walsh, you got through Cripps, you kicked a goal. What we need this year is like the great teams of old. I look at Liverpool, you get past Firmino, you've got to go past Mo, you've got to go past Jordan Henderson, you've got to have to go past Fabinho. There is always another man to beat. They are a team. I hate to say it because I can't stand them, but they've got that mindset of, you've made a mistake, Terry, I've got your back, mate. Don't worry, I'm going to get this tackle this time. You owe me one. And that is something that accountability brings. We need that. Oh, shit, Cripps has missed a tackle. I need to make it for him. He'll owe me down the track. And that's what the great teams do. You look at Melbourne this year. You got past Clayton Oliver, Viney hit you. You got past Viney, Neil Bullen hit you. There was always another man you had to beat. And eventually it was too much. You saw it, the Doggies this year against them. Doggies were pound for pound brilliant with them. And then that was when the screws turned. The pressure was too much. They attacked in numbers. They defended in numbers. And that's what Carlton have got to do. At the moment, Carlton are Man United. If Mackay, our Cristiano Ronaldo, doesn't score, unlucky. But great teams, if Mackay doesn't score, Kerno scores. If Kerno doesn't score, Walsh will score. It's got to be a team buy-in. So that is what is exciting this year. can he get them to buy in? If they buy in, they'll win more games than they lose.
Yeah, it's on the players. I mean, we could talk about Michael Voss and all that, but at the end of the day, these players have got to, they've got to. It's your life, it's your career. Michael Voss isn't responsible for your career. You are responsible. You could say, oh, I didn't have good coaching with David Teague or whatever, and that's why I stumbled. No, it's you didn't train hard enough. You didn't. I'm sorry. It's like you can bring up all the excuses you want, but at the end of the day, you didn't work hard enough. I mean, people like Sam Walsh got better. Why didn't you get better?
Mm.
I mean, is he the most talented footballer I've ever seen? No. He's not the greatest kicker I've ever seen. He's not 7 foot tall. He's just a hard worker and he works hard at his craft. And some of these players, they needed a reality check. Like, dude, this is your career. This isn't Carlton's career. This is your life. Do you want to put the best out of it or not?
Mm. It's true.
Yeah, no, Spawn. Like the great Roy Keane says, you don't thank the postman for delivering your letters. So why do you thank a player for doing the basics? It's his job.
Yeah. His job.
I mean, actually, could talk about Roy Keane. I remember he saw something. One of the greatest things I've ever, like, the best ever attitude you can have as a player. He was talking about a game, the Champions League final or Champions League semi-final in '99 when he got a red card.
Oh yeah, against Juventus, yeah.
Yeah, and he was sensational and he won the game for them pretty much, and he was the reason why they won the Champions League that year. And he was reading something from Sir Alex Ferguson, and Sir Alex Ferguson was saying, "Oh, it was just amazing what he did." And Roy was like, "What did he expect me to do? I was doing my job." It's like he almost took insult at it. It's like this is what I do. It's not special. I worked harder than everyone else. I wasn't talented. I just worked my ass off, and that's what these players should think. How they should think. They should think I worked my ass off.
100%. And you look at Sam Walsh, that's why he's so good. He's not about himself. He's not about accolades. He's about being the best Sam Walsh can be. And it's about every day going to training, being better than last week, because that'll make the team better. And that's what, if you can get that in 18 players, you'll win the flag.
Yeah.
If 18 players can think like that. And that's what excites me. Chera talks like that. Hewitt talks like that. We've got more of these players now around them dressing room that are going to lift that standard and be like, stop pissing about, stop messing about, get better, focus. And hopefully we've got the ingredients.
I think we do. We should be excited for next year.
We are. Love your work, Chris.
No worries. Lovely to see you guys. It's been a while, so I'll come on hopefully in another couple of weeks.
Sounds good, mate. Always welcome.
Cheers, guys. Go Arsenal.
You know it. See you, bro.
See you later,
That's a good way to. That's a good way to finish up there. I love that. Love that a lot. Palm, I want to bring something up because we did mention up the PwC survey.
I was like, what have I done?
No,
you gave me telling off on. So what have I done?
You're getting held accountable. No, so I've referenced this PwC sports survey. They surveyed a big chunk of the top sports executives, investors, decision makers in the sports industry about the future of sport. And it sort of came up today. Obviously, the Jordan De Goey news came up with what's happened in New York. And I mean, we don't know the exact findings of it yet, but it's just more about, okay, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a bit of an issue going on. And it got me thinking. I mean, I wasn't surprised to hear the news, if I'm dead honest. And I don't think Collingwood supporters were either. And I know that Carlton fans, one of the notions that comes up when we lose and when we lose badly is, we're so invested in these social movements and whatnot. And I think I've thought of that at times as well. Like, we really are probably the league leader, I would say, in how we go about raising awareness for important issues across the world. And it got me thinking, I feel like the situation with De Goey and Collingwood, we're reaping the benefits of the programs that we have in place. I feel like our boys and girls, our club, and those on the inside are so well educated on how to behave and whatnot. And I know we talk about, I would love to see a bit of mongrel on field, and that's all good and well. But when we talk about our people, I think we should take a moment to be pretty proud of the people that we have representing the club as human beings. I think they carry themselves very well and conduct themselves very well. And maybe there was a method to the madness all along. And it leads me into my point. In this survey, there's a table I'm going to bring up right now. And this is the motivations for sports organizations to actively engage in social and environmental sustainability. So you look at so everyone was asked this question, and they were asked to rank the top 2 most important notions here of important and very important. So at the top, you've got build trust of fans and participants and meet sponsors and investors' expectations. There's more to this. I'm gonna have a video about this coming up with the rest of the survey, but
It's a very Terry thing.
Yes, very much so. But Pom, what did you make of that? And what do you make of that? Do you feel like all of a sudden, if you look at it from a broader point of view and not just what's happening on field, and you look at who we are as a people, and we have a massive platform as the club that we are, and we're using it to promote, such educational notions. What's your take on all of this?
I think it's something that I think I'm in a great position at 36 years old. I'm old enough to remember going to the football with my pop, and racist, homophobic, sexist chants were the norm. It was rife. It was rife. It was so normal. It's actually offensive to me to look back at it then. But what it does, and it's amazing how important sports are in cultivating theory. And I'll use it as an analogy on, it's like doing drugs when they always say marijuana is the gateway drug because you break the moral, you do it, it opens the door to other things. What happens at sport, especially Carlton, is there's so much awareness on Carlton, respects on the wonderful Carlton pride that we have. If you ever have a chance, go and listen to David's story. And it absolutely melons your mind that he felt unsafe coming to have a beer at the football. Absolutely mind-blowing to me, because I think AFL is the nicest place I've ever been. And that's sat with opposition fans. Like, it's a right laugh. But it's really important because if you allow it, eventually you do little things. Eventually it gets to the go-y stage. Now, I don't want Carlton fans taking the piss because, like Sean says here, Collingwood people, I know a lot of them. We take the piss out of them. I trust my wife, my daughter, my kids with Swoop Luke to the day I die. He's a great bloke and he's not like that. Just one idiot doesn't reflect the entire thing. But I do think it's an important thing that it does teach us subconsciously. I know we get annoyed about it, PC, but it is a real good thing for our kids. And you know what? I'm thankful for Carlton Respects because my 2 boys see that. And it subconsciously is in their head that Sam Walsh treats people with respect. His heroes do. And it's a lot more attractive that Sam Walsh doesn't go around and be an egg in a nightclub than Daddy doesn't. Because there's probably a chance he would be an egg in a nightclub if I didn't, because I'm uncool. But Sam Walsh is God to my little boy. So if I could say Sam Walsh doesn't do it, my son's like, okay, cool, I'm not going to do it. So it's a good teaching method. But I agree. I think these are the times for that you do take in things, don't you? You do, even as an adult now. I remember hearing Eddie Betts tell us about that racism when he was on this show. And it's amazing how it touched me. And as I'm an old man, but hearing his struggles made me address how I am at home, because I was worried I was influencing my kids subconsciously. That what do I say? Like, if I make it a joke or don't take it serious, are they going to subconsciously take it as a joke? So I think it's a great thing that the club do. And I know sometimes it can be irritating, but this is why we have it. Because there is idiots like DeGoey and his mate that think going to a nightclub and grabbing a woman that they don't know by her female genitalia is totally acceptable. And I think it's disgusting. And I personally think he should be sacked with immediate effect. But that's just me. But that's why it's important, because we get a generation. Eventually, these old fuddy-duddies will die out. And eventually, the new generation will be a bit more self-aware and a little bit more understanding.
Yeah, I mean, we sacked Fev for just getting drunk. We were 10 years ahead of the curve. But just further to the stats that I showed before, the sports playbook, they used using the Global Web Index, which is a new sports data set, and it surveyed just under 10,000 sports fans aged 16 to 64 across 15 core markets, and it showed that 69% of those in the 16 to 24 age bracket want to see sports stakeholders do more to help the community improve inequality or act sustainably. And this was a global survey, not in Australia. And when I go to schools through the work I do with Eat Up, and I do sandwich making sessions with like year 7s and year 8s, I hear them talk about things like the cling wrap that you use is a biodegradable. The young generation of today are actually going to be the ones that save the mess that the old generation have left for us, and they're the ones that are bringing it to light. So I think you're right in the subconscious tells that are now being put into us for the future, and they are important for organizations because they allow for better commercial relationships with sponsors, which goes both ways. They can also be taken away really quickly, and I imagine something like that will happen with Collingwood. But more importantly, it's about using the platform that we have as a footy club to make the world a better place.
And sometimes they can approach subjects that parents can't. So as a parent now, I remember vividly, I was 6 years old, Mark Walters on my TV. I was 7 or 8, I think. Mark Walters, one of the first black players to play for Rangers. I remember him crying on TV because he had to explain to his daughter what the N word was because someone told his daughter, your dad's that N. And hearing a full-grown man cry, who I idolised, who I pretended to be in the park, shocked me that A, that was offensive, B, that was going on, and C, he was being picked on because of the colour of his skin. And it taught me a huge lesson that I couldn't ask my white granddad about. And then I look at my kids now, and Rangers have got the numeracy and literacy programme in football. And my son struggles with maths, but because they've brought it to football, and I can show him videos with Ayanis, Hadji, it's suddenly cool because he's learning maths through his sporting heroes.
Yeah.
And it helps. So that is the impact I think sports clubs have. And we're quite revolutionary at Carlton Football Club that we're doing it because some of the others aren't. But I think this is only the start. And I think when you get clowns like De Goey, that says to me that this guy probably needed Carlton Football Club 10, 15 years ago. Because for him to even put himself in a situation, let's just say he's innocent, but to be put in a second situation after you've got away with the first one shows tremendous naivety or exceptional arrogance. And whichever it is, whether it's naivety or arrogance, they're bad character traits for him to have. So it's a shame that Carlton Respects wasn't around 10 years ago because maybe De Goey would be in a different situation. But very important that we learn from this and be proud of yourself, Carlton fans, that we're not dickheads. We're not dickheads.
I mean, look, people make mistakes, and there will always be a situation where there's someone muffs something, and that's like, I mean, there are certain levels to it though, and that's also probably something that I've experienced with just with the channel. Like you look at all of us that have featured from the very beginning. And that's what I think is one of the main things that the channel has done. Like you have accountability, you're on a video, like you watch yourself again and you audit yourself and you get better from it. I mean, we've never really had anything De Goey level shocking happen, touch wood, with people that come on here, that are Carlton supporters, I should say. But it's important. It is important. I know it is frustrating, but I did have that light bulb moment, I guess, when I was thinking about the Collingwood and De Goey situation. Like, how do they handle that? How do the AFL handle it now? Because how do you get in trouble in New York to a level where it comes back to Melbourne, where no one knows who you are in New York? So anyway, first and foremost, I hope he just gets his shit together and, just smartens up. First and foremost, that's the most important thing, because he could be a hero. He could be someone that can show that he's changed his ways, and that's also important. That is, I think, a powerful story, an Australian story, the one that, rises from their struggles. And we love to celebrate those who overcome their demons, and so we should. But unfortunately, he's just got himself in the same situation. So anyway, I thought it was a good talking point.
Now, I think we forget the impact sport has on things in general. And I think you hear a lot of people say sport shouldn't be political places. I agree with that. I don't think politics should ever be in sport, but I do think what should be in sport is awareness of social issues, because whether you like it or not, a sports place, I want the LGBTI, everyone of every ethnicity, every sex, to be able to come and enjoy all my sports teams hand in hand with me, having a beer and not being scared. I want them to be embraced. And honestly, if you have a chance, go and check out Carlton Pride's David's story. It is absolutely insane that this community we've got now with all you guys right out there, how beautiful it is that we can all be friends and have family and things like that and be like part of something. This is my family away from home. But it's really important that you listen to that, because there is bad people out there. And like for me, Degoe, he's part of the problem. He's part of the old mentality. And I'm only speculating here, but I get a feeling like Mr. Degoe has got into a situation now where he feels he's above everyone else.
Yeah.
Feels like he's made it. Feels like, I dodged a bullet last time. Oh, I'm with the lads. And that is the messaging we want to get rid of. That is what we need. That's what Carlton Respect is all about. That's the old way of thinking. Now to start thinking about what your actions have on other people, because it's meant to be a great place to be. Australia is the most beautiful country in the world. I'm telling you, I've been everywhere. Well, take it.
I mean, look, traditionally, professional athletes, they've maintained like a political and social neutrality in the public debate, sort of aware of these risks that might come up and the repercussions on their relationship with the sport and commercial partners and whatnot. But you look at this new generation of athletes, and I really do think it's been driven by the women who are now speaking out, not only for, their own rights and status, but also for, broader community causes. They're using their platform to protest or advocate for issues such as racial or gender equality, mental health, or child poverty, whatever it is. And I think that's where this is all changing. It's no longer I come to the footy to get away from all the bullshit. No, the footy is a very important part. Sport is a very important part of human existence. And I think we are now in a different generation, a different era where the individual now has followers and a platform. Every individual now has their own platform, so to speak, especially those that play professional sports. So all of a sudden, there is an onus of, what are you going to do with your platform? How are you going to use it? Are you going to use it to, what message are you going to spread, and what do you stand for? And this is the era we're in. And those who come from the 50s and 60s and say this is bullshit, well, the reality is you're going to die and we're not going to think the way you think anymore. And that's just the human cycle, like it or not. This is how it is, and this is how it's going to be. Yeah, and I think it's important we have these tough conversations. I really do. Like last week, someone threw the injection on us. I like these tough conversations because I think I listened to Fox Footy earlier today, and they said it's a tough situation with Degoe. And I don't think it is, because it's not really that hard not to be a dickhead, is it? Yeah, it's not.
I mean, I'm going to hold my hand up. I fucked up a lot of times on this channel with the things I've said, right? Never said anything that bad, though. Never done that. But I have had Freudian slips. And it's about learning. But some things you can't repair like that. Like that, to me, just put in perspective what he's done, that is mind-boggling to me. I've got a young daughter. That is mind-boggling that someone could do that. Do you know what I mean? Mind-boggling that someone could even think about doing that. And that's where this education comes, because as a dad, you do so much. As a mum, you do so much. But every little helps, because for every good person, in my experience, there's 10 dickheads. There's 10 dickheads. And we need to reevaluate that, because think of that poor girl. We don't know what state she was in, drunk-wise, but that could have potentially ruined her enjoyment of going out on a night out. Do you know what I mean? For the rest of her life. Do you think like going out and having a few beers is, I'd say, one of our birthrights as human beings? We don't know down the track how that's affected her. So people like Degoe need outing in society. And that's why I respect Carlton for having the Carlton respects, because it's a tough conversation to have. And you've only got to see Carlton respects or the AFLW when Carlton posts something and see where that bigotry exists from. It's still there. It's still there. And that small bit of bigotry leads into these big things because someone sees it and goes, oh, yeah, that's okay. That's why it needs to be stamped out. So, to me, John Degoe, complete tit of a human being. You know what I mean? Absolute melt.
I think we'll leave it there.
Sorry,
I think
everyone.
we'll leave it there. I like it. Don't be sorry, mate. They're important conversations to have. They really are. So, yeah, Pom, thanks for joining. Guys, thanks for being here tonight. Really do enjoy off-season. It's so chill. It's just like having a phone call, really. But, yeah, we'll see you guys next week. More videos will be coming out this week. Pom, we're going to do a few more draft videos, I think, before the end of the week. And get them out.
Final.
Yeah, this is your grand final, so we might as well wrap it up. But we'll speak to you guys later. Have a great one.